So let's talk about mommy issues. Specifically, I want to talk about the impact of a toxic mother on the daughter's development and how it affects her adult relationships. Within all of the family dynamics that I've come across, I think the mother-daughter dynamic is very unique. And the reason for this is because when the mother gives birth to her daughter, she doesn't just see a child, she sees the daughter as an extension of herself. And because of this, a lot of the time, the mother's self-esteem is going to have a huge impact on the daughter's self-esteem. If you're not aware that you have mommy issues, it's going to affect your relationships, or even worse, you might pass it on to your children, and the cycle just continues. With that said, let's go over the 5 main causes of mommy issues. Number 1, a lack of emotional connection. Your mother was not emotionally attuned to you. She didn't pay attention to you. She wasn't trying to understand you or validate your emotions. This is really important because it's one of the primary ways that a mother shows her love. And this is what allows you to develop a secure attachment style. But if your mother is emotionally absent, then you're more likely to develop an insecure attachment style. This emotional connection between the mother and the daughter is how your brain learns to trust. Whenever your mother neglects your emotional needs, it creates a fear response in your brain. And if it happens over and over again, then your nervous system gets primed for fear and abandonment instead of love and trust. The second cause of mommy issues is when your mother is overly critical of you. It could be criticisms or comparing you to other people or nitpicking every single one of your mistakes. This is a problem because if your mother is constantly criticizing you, it can lead to a lifelong insecurity and a distorted perception of yourself. Oftentimes, you can become very sensitive because when you grow up with a mother who is constantly picking on you, any criticisms, even the constructive ones, can come off as an attack. In addition to this, being overly critical is often linked to conditional love. You feel like you have to earn her love, like you couldn't receive love unless you're absolutely perfect or when you achieve something. This is really bad. It causes you to have low self-esteem because you feel like nothing you do is good enough. Essentially, your brain is primed to focus on your mistakes and failures instead of success. The third one is about boundaries. It's when you feel like you as a daughter need to manage your mother's emotions. Or maybe you feel like you need to be the mom sometimes. You have to take care of her emotionally and physically. Or it could be that you feel like you don't know what to expect from her. One moment she's fine and the next moment she just snapped out of nowhere. For a developing child, all of this can be very confusing because it's blurring the line between the mother and the daughter. Like, who's the mother and who's the daughter? You might feel like it's your job to make her happy or it's your job to cater to her needs. And it doesn't allow you to be the daughter or to have your own experiences. Another thing that can cause mommy issues, and I'm surprised not a lot of people talk about this, and that is the lack of physical touch. Humans are social creatures, and physical touch is one of those ways that we connect and comfort each other. And when you are a young girl, this is especially important. This maternal loving touch has been shown to be just as important as food, or maybe even more important. So if you were never hugged or cuddled or kissed when you were a child, that can potentially create a lot of intimacy issues when you become an adult. The last one I have is about safety. If your mother didn't provide a sense of safety for you, let's say she put you in dangerous situation, or she herself was the cause of these unsafe situations. Or maybe she was controlling, manipulative, selfish. She didn't take accountability for her mistakes. These things are going to create serious trust issues because nothing is more damaging than being hurt by the one person who is supposed to be the source of your safety. Now you might be asking, how do mother issues show up in adult relationships? The most common ones are anxiety and low self-esteem. In addition to that, you might be extremely codependent once you're in a relationship, or you might just avoid relationships altogether. You might struggle a lot with intimacy, not just physical, but also emotional intimacy, like opening up and being vulnerable. You might also have a difficult time making female friends because of your trust issues. In some instances, you might feel this need for security because you didn't have that growing up. So you might strive to be independent, make a lot of money, or you would want to marry somebody with a lot of power and status because that's the only way you can feel secure. Another important one is that you might struggle leaning into your femininity, or in some extreme cases, you might reject your femininity altogether because your mother was not a good example of what femininity is. It's very common for women who have bad relationships with their mothers to have this anxiety or this crippling fear of ending up just like their mothers. Your mother is the earliest picture of what a woman is, so if you don't like your mother, you're going to do everything in your power to not be like your mother. But as a woman, if you're not in touch with your femininity, then you're going to have a lot of issues when it comes to romantic relationships. That was a lot of stuff that I just mentioned. So if you happen to have mommy issues, how can you heal from this? The first thing that I invite you to do is to stop waiting for an apology. I know that an apology would be nice, but a lot of the time we use this as an excuse to delay the healing process or to avoid reality. You might get an apology, you might not. Either way, waiting around is not going to help. Second, I think it's important to consider a different perspective. You know how people say the biggest bully at school is usually the one being bullied at home? Similar situation here. The reason why your mother was toxic is because she probably didn't receive the love, support, and safety that she needed when she was a child. Or it could be that she didn't have the support necessary when she started motherhood. Back in tribal days, all of the women in the community would support each other through motherhood. They would help each other raise their children and be there for one another. That's just the way it was. But now things are very different. We live in an isolated society where there are a lot of mixed messages about motherhood. It's a very sad reality that we live in. Seeing things from your mother's perspective does not take anything away from your experience. It doesn't invalidate your feelings, and it doesn't excuse your mother's behavior. It allows you to see the bigger picture. Most importantly, it allows you to have empathy and compassion for your mother. The next thing you can do is to take care of yourself. You can start by recognizing if you're neglecting your physical and emotional well-being, and consider some of the ways that you can start working on them. For example, are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Do you have somebody to talk to? Do you have somebody who you feel comfortable sharing your emotions? If you don't, then maybe it's a good idea to start journaling or to see a therapist. If you've been raised in an emotionally neglectful environment, your feelings have been ignored for so long that it might get to the point where you don't even know how you feel. So give yourself a chance to figure it out and work with a therapist to see how you can express those feelings in a healthy way. The last thing I would recommend is to set healthy boundaries. It's okay to say no. Don't do anything that might trigger negative emotions in you. Set boundaries around those people who tend to make you feel like shit. And if they don't understand that, just cut them out completely. You need the time and space to heal, and you don't need to invest your time and energy in those toxic people. Alright, that concludes the video. If you have any experience with toxic mother, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Until next time, stay curious.